Hey everybody. In today's episode, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at some wand silhouettes from the Harry Potter franchise, as well as some of my own, and giving you some things to think about when we get to the, kind of conceptualizing, sketching out phase of your wand, and how best to approach if you're looking for, creating a kind of a more of a dramatic or interesting shape or silhouette, to be read from a distance, before adding detail and things like that to the wand. So let's get started.
Okay, so the first set of ones we're going to take a look at are from the Harry Potter franchise. So here we see Sirius Black's, Professor Slughorn's, Ron Weasley's, Hermione Granger's, Harry Potter's, the Elder Wand, Dumbledore's wand. I actually am not entirely sure whose wand this is right there, but then we have Voldemort's and Bellatrix Lestrange. Um, So let's go ahead and I'm going to switch it over to just the silhouette view of these wands. Now, love the character of Sirius Black. I'm sure that the creative team over there in the films had a very good reason. Maybe they felt that it fit just his character personality type or whatever to give him a relatively simple shape, and then you know put these different runic symbols and then these details up here. I mean, when you put the details into it, it looks really beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with having this simple shape and then adding these cool details into it. These details, it relies, in my opinion, heavily upon these details to give it its most visual interest. On a shelf, though, with how I make my wands and put them in display boxes that you can set up on a shelf. From a distance, in my opinion, and forgive me, this looks like a giant chopstick. Again, simple is not bad when executed well, and when you add some additional fun details into it. Which adding details, small details to the wands, will be talked about a little bit more in future videos. But focusing on just the silhouette, okay, just the overall shape as far as visual interest when read from afar, some of these have, of course, a good amount. Hermione's right here. Hers, it's definitely broken up a bit more than Sirius's. You can see these little rounded areas where the vines on hers kind of break up just the super straight shape. But by and large, hers is again kind of a chopsticky looking one. I really like it. I like Sirius's too. But again, with the way that I approach most of my wands, and I'll probably do some that actually fall sort of in these categories. I just haven't really come up with a strong enough concept yet. But I'm not saying that like I'm above it. And frankly, I really haven't been making wands that long anyway. I'm just kind of, this is stuff that I try and keep in mind when making my wands, so I can hopefully come up with more unique or interesting designs. Again, Slughorn's, the angle of the image that I pulled offline, his blade is not this straight. I think that they just have it at a different angle. Whereas if you were to rotate this about 90 degrees, you'd see that his blade is a bit more like kind of up and down like a wave. So that creates additional visual interest. But his is very interesting looking. Even Ron's overall silhouette is simple overall, but it's broken up enough to where you have this bulbous kind of end right here. Ron's wand is definitely a pommel heavy, in my opinion. You're probably not. If you hold it up here, it's just not going to feel right in your hand. So Harry's is not the most interesting, but it's definitely. I mean, it's got. There are different overall. The shape breaks up from just like a straight chopstick. So the silhouette does have some visual intrigue to it. And then, of course, when you put some of the details into it, then it also adds a lot more to it. One of the reasons behind looking at some of these wands and their silhouettes is that the silhouette, can look really interesting. And then on top of that, in my opinion, you can have very clean wands that have unique shapes and stuff like that. And then they can still look kind of flat. Like, look at Voldemort's wand down here, okay? The silhouette of his wand is very interesting, okay? That's a very strong silhouette, in my opinion. It It's just a very different kind of shape. It stands out a lot, in my opinion, among the others. Voldemort's Slughorns, the Elder Wand a little bit, even though it's like super symmetrical, you know, like it was spun on a lathe. And then Bellatrix's stands out because, you know, it's kind of like the Count Dooku of wands, and it has that curved handle to it. So again, just looking at the shape, very interesting. Now, if they had not put any of these little decayed looking parts into the wand here, where it makes it look a lot more like bone, if they didn't carve in some of these areas here and or do some of that like black wash paint into these recessed areas, and these little micro cuts in here to make it look a lot more like bone, it's just not going to be, you're not taking it to that next level, in my opinion. You know, they could have just had a crazy shaped wand and that would have looked cool or whatever. And I do see a good number of wands out there that have very interesting shapes, but again, this is completely subjective. In my opinion, they just didn't go that extra step of adding some fun little details and characteristics, giving it additional characteristics that really make it pop and come alive and make it truly, truly unique. I mean, like, could you imagine the Elder Wand without these little pockets, these little holes on it? Still an interesting shaped wand, unique in the sense that, again, it's not just some straight chopstick, or even this down here. I mean, like, fine, you know, it's broken up, this one right here, as far as it not just being some super, I mean, but again, it's kind of, to me, it looks very basic. I mean, it's one of the main reasons, in my opinion, why they changed up the wands after the, what was it, the second or third film? The wands that, you know, Hermione and Harry and most of the cast had, with the exception of the Elder Wand, I believe, they were all very kind of in this ballpark. They all look kind of similar. So yeah, if the Elder Wand was just this, yes, interesting, but just imagine the wood being perfectly smooth on all these areas. Not nearly as interesting as adding this texture into it. And we're not really focusing too much on texture right now. We are focusing on silhouette. But having a strong silhouette, having it read from a distance with a strong shape to it, is, in my opinion, a very good starting point. Because then you layer on some additional detail after you have that. I'm going to put mine on here. Same kind of thing, right? So this one up here, for example, it doesn't showcase it the best because it's, I just, you know, I cropped out, or I took this photo, and due to perspective, you know, it's not like a straight hole right through there, but with the angle of the photo. But if you own this, if you have this wand, like, those holes go straight through, okay? Now, these two, so this one here, which kind of falls within that like Art Deco-ish vibe, the metal embellishment aspect of it, you know, and this was my first time kind of attaching this collar and this little like hardware piece on here, and then giving it these little 3 rings down here just to try and make it look a little bit more interesting. I want to get into some acid etching, or even maybe doing some metal carving with a Dremel, but I do want to fancy these up a little bit more. It's a good first start, I think. But in any case, overall, this of the ones that I have, in my opinion, that I've made, it's kind of in like the Sirius Black-esque realm, Hermione kind of realm, as is this one right here, this white and black one. When you know, take away all the details and you kind of just look at the shape of them, it's not a complete straight, you know, completely even tapered wand here. It does kind of bow out a little bit more down here. So not totally straight. However, like I said, of the ones that I've made, I would think that these ones kind of fall into that sort of simple, really simple shape. But, you know, a good number of these other ones that I have, almost all of the other ones, they have some sort of unique shape to them. Something that from a distance reads as interesting to the eye, in my opinion. This one's pretty interesting here. It was inspired by, it's like a Peruvian, forgive me, I don't know the actual, Polynesian maybe. I think it's like a Polynesian war club. You will have seen that in the previous video. and then I wrapped the twine around. But again, it gave me this interesting kind of old world weapon kind of look to it, almost like Native American spear / war club type of deal. So something, again, like I said, just something to consider when you are coming up with your wand sketches. Now, let's see here. I'm just going to pull up a search real quick for lathe made wands. I don't know what's going to come up, and I'm not trying to pick on anyone or anything like that. I'm just going to take a look at the first couple ones that come up and see what we have there. So in my mind, again, you can add some additional details, and that does help. But when you see tons of lathe made wands out there, actually, these ones I really like. I think these ones are really cool looking, and of course they're different from each other. But I bet you, and I'm not going to spend the time to do it, but I bet you if I took these and put them into Photoshop and broke them into their individual parts like I did with the other wands that we were looking at, and took these ones, the blades are interesting a little bit, but even look how uniform this blade is over here. And then it's like there's another one that has the same kind of thing, but a different handle, which yes, makes it unique. But I think that if I were to take a lot of these that you get, that people make like 99% or 100% on the lathe, even though you add different colors to them and stuff like that, by and large, for the most part, you look at them from the distance and they're all going to look relatively similar to one another. And that's fine. Like I said, I like some lathe turned out wands. Like I just said, these ones I, for whatever reason, I just I'm drawn to these. I've seen these before. I'm not sure where I came across, maybe Pinterest. But I like how they look. Very sleek, very kind of like just classy looking or something. But again, when I sit down to make wands, I think that one of the things that's going to make them stand out and catch people's eyes maybe a little bit more is the fact that they aren't generally just those repeated, lathe turned wands where you have, using the ones that I like again as an example, again, yes, different, but then there's like certain aspects like here that's repeated sort of, and so it's almost like you're kind of cutting and pasting a lot of the same stuff in different areas and different ratios and stuff, which, like I said again, is fine. I mean, I like how all these look. It's just that when comparing them to wands like this and some other fellow wand makers that I have seen, such as like Crooked Wands, Windermere, Phoenix Wands, Kyvox Ender. There's just, you get into those, you look at those wands, and they're just very unique, very, very different looking. So again, just to reiterate it one last time, when you are sketching out your wands, keep some of this in mind. Don't be inhibited by it. Don't be restricted. Don't feel like you're boxing yourself in, like you can't sketch out a really symmetrical, even lathe turned wand. If that's what you're going for, go for it. Of course, my opinion is completely subjective. Even within wands that this one was turned like 95% on or like 98% made on the lathe, and then right up in here I took like a little Dremel bit and or a micro tool and I carved out these little recessed areas. I'm always going to want to put my hands on something after it comes off the lathe to give it just a little bit more character. But again, that's kind of getting into more detail. Sorry about that. Yeah, so keep all that in mind as we move on throughout the course. I think in the last video, I said that we were going to take a look at the Harry Potter wands and the Fantastic Beast wands. I didn't pull the Fantastic Beast wands over here, so sorry about that. Kind of ran short a little bit on time. I was just kind of trying to get things done over here in preparation for the newborn that's on the way. But of course, you can see what I'm talking about here, and if you want to go look at some of the Fantastic Beasts, Google some of the wands from the Fantastic Beasts movies and just try to imagine the shape of it and squint your eyes at it or something and look at the overall shape and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
All right, so that's it for the wand silhouette episode. I hope that it gave you something to think about. I know that I've been deliberately breaking a lot of these lessons into as I don't know about micro focused. I've been trying to kind of just give you a little bit of information at a time, and I know that it's a lot of different little steps to even just get to like the sketching phase and all that. But I promise you, if you go through these and you think about a lot of this stuff, as when it comes time to sit down to do the sketching, it will be beneficial. You'll more than likely turn out a finished product that you will be a lot more happy with than if you just kind of skip over some of this stuff because you want to get to the, turning it out on a lathe or cutting it out on band saws and getting to the Dremel tools and all that stuff. So I hope that you guys have been watching along these different little episodes. If you haven't and you are just now seeing this, but you skipped some of the other ones, I really encourage you to go back and watch all of them, the whole course. So I hope that I'm giving you all something to think about when it comes to even for those who have been making wands for a while. I know that I follow fellow wand makers and I check out what they put out because it's just gonna push me to learn more, develop my skills, and turn out better pieces. At the end of the day. So even if you are a fellow wand maker and sometimes people can kind of fall into their comfort zone where they have their go-to methods and approaches to things. I hope that if you're watching this, that maybe it makes you think about some different ways to approach stepping outside your box, or just additional things to think about when you are conceptualizing some of your wands and trying new things. If you have any questions or comments about this episode, I would love some feedback. Please do not be shy about leaving any questions or thoughts below. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button, click the little bell for future notifications on new lessons coming out, and as well as when I put up new wand videos. And stay tuned. Thanks for watching.